The transport vessel screamed through the atmosphere of Frontier Colony 7, leaving a trail of black smoke against the amber sky. Inside the cramped passenger hold, Seraphine clutched the restraint bars as the ship lurched violently to one side. Her magnificent wings, scales shimmering with iridescent purple and gold, pressed awkwardly against the metal walls. The Dragon Girl had folded them as tightly as possible, but the human-designed ship wasn't built for someone with a 12-foot wingspan. Warning sirens blared through the cabin as the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. All passengers, brace for emergency landing. Repeat, brace for impact. Seraphine's heart raced as she watched the viewport. Her diplomatic mission to this remote human colony was supposed to be routine. The Draconic Council had sent her to negotiate mining rights, nothing dangerous. Yet someone had sabotaged the fuel cells. Back on her homeworld of Aurelian Prime, political tensions had been rising between those who wanted peace with humans and those who saw them as primitive competitors. The vessel struck the ground with bone-shattering force. Seraphine felt her body thrown forward against the restraints. Her wings, unable to fold any further, took the full brunt of the impact. The sound of snapping bone and tearing membrane filled her ears, drowning out even the shriek of rending metal. Pain exploded across her back, so intense that her vision went white. The ship rolled 3 times, each rotation sending fresh agony through her shattered wings. When the vessel finally came to rest on its side, Seraphine hung suspended by her restraints. Smoke filled the cabin, acrid and choking. She could hear small fires crackling somewhere in the cockpit. With trembling claws, she fumbled with the release mechanism. The restraints fell away and she dropped to what had been the wall, now the floor. Behind her, her wings dragged uselessly. Every nerve ending screamed in protest. The emergency hatch had been damaged in the crash. Seraphine threw her shoulder against it once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th attempt, it burst open and she tumbled out onto red soil covered with strange blue vegetation. She crawled forward on her hands and knees, her wings trailing behind her like broken kites. When she was 20 meters from the wreck, the fuel cells finally exploded. The blast wave knocked her flat. Seraphine lay in the alien grass, unable to move beyond shallow breathing. Her wings were everything to her people. They represented honor, heritage, and connection to the sky. Dragons without wings were considered incomplete, pitiful creatures who could never truly belong to dragon society. Her mother, a member of the High Council, would be devastated. Her younger sister would inherit the diplomatic position that should have been Seraphine's legacy. Time became meaningless as she lay there. The amber sky darkened to deep orange, then to purple. Stars appeared, constellations she didn't recognize. The pain had settled into a constant, grinding ache that made thinking difficult. When she heard the rumble of an approaching vehicle, she almost didn't care. Let them find her body. Let this nightmare end. The vehicle stopped nearby. A door slammed. Footsteps crunched through the vegetation, quick and purposeful. "Oh my God!" A woman's voice, filled with shock and concern. Seraphine managed to turn her head slightly. A human woman stood there, probably in her early 30s, with sun-darkened skin and calloused hands. She wore practical work clothes covered in dust and what looked like animal fur. Not military. Not government. Just a local. "I'm going to help you," the woman said, kneeling beside Seraphine. "Don't try to move. My name is Dakota Reeves. I run the veterinary practice in New Haven Settlement." The woman pulled out a handheld medical scanner and began running it over Seraphine's body. When the scanner reached her wings, Dakota's expression grew grim. "The internal structure is completely shattered. Multiple fractures in the wing bones. Severe membrane tears. Without treatment, these injuries will become permanent." "Then let them," Seraphine whispered in the human common tongue. Her voice was rough from smoke inhalation. "I am Seraphine of House Goldscale, daughter of Council Member Valendra. Without my wings, I am nothing to my people. I have no future. Dakota met her eyes with surprising intensity. That's the trauma talking. You're in shock and you're scared. But I've been treating injured creatures for 15 years, and I've learned something important. A body can heal from almost anything if given the chance. Wings or no wings, you're still alive. That means something. You treat animals, Seraphine said bitterly. I am a sentient being from an advanced civilization. You cannot possibly understand dragon physiology. Dakota stood and began unloading equipment from her vehicle. You're right. I've never treated a dragon before. But I've repaired wings on everything from earth hawks to Cygnon sky whales. I've rebuilt shattered bones and torn membranes more times than I can count. Your wings are more complex, but the fundamentals are the same. Calcium-based skeletal structure. Protein membrane tissue. Nerve networks. I can work with that. Why would you help me? Seraphine asked. Your people and mine are barely allies. Some humans hate dragons. Dakota paused in her work, looking back at Seraphine with something like sadness. Because I took an oath when I became a veterinarian. I swore to heal and protect any creature that needed my help, regardless of species or origin. Besides, she added with a slight smile, leaving someone to die in a field because they're different from me isn't the kind of person I want to be. She returned with portable stabilizers, carefully positioning them around Seraphine's wings. Each adjustment sent fresh waves of pain through the dragon girl's body, but she could feel the broken pieces being held in place, no longer grinding against each other. Dakota worked with quiet efficiency, her movements gentle but confident. She applied temporary braces that supported the wing structure, then administered painkillers through an injection at the base of Seraphine's neck. The medication took effect quickly, dulling the worst of the agony. Seraphine felt tears sliding down her scaled cheeks. She hadn't cried since she was a hatchling. Dragons were taught from childhood to control their emotions, to present strength at all times. But lying broken in an alien field, being tended by a human veterinarian who had no reason to care, something inside her cracked. I'm going to transport you to my clinic, Dakota said gently. It's about 20 minutes from here. I have better equipment there, proper imaging technology. I can assess the full extent of the damage and develop a treatment plan. You'll teach me what I need to know about dragon physiology, and we'll figure this out together. Do you trust me to try? Seraphine looked at this human woman who had appeared out of nowhere to offer hope when all seemed lost. Dakota's eyes held determination and compassion in equal measure. What choice did she have? Die here alone, or accept help from an unlikely source? I will allow you to examine me, Seraphine said finally. Nothing more. That's a start, Dakota replied. Let's get you to safety. Dakota's vehicle smelled of earth and animals, a mixture of scents that Seraphine found oddly comforting despite her situation. She lay in the back on padded blankets that probably usually held injured livestock. Through the window, she watched the alien landscape roll past. The vegetation here was predominantly blue and purple, so different from the golden plains of her homeworld. Small creatures darted away from the vehicle's path, startled by the noise. The clinic appeared as they crested a low hill. It was a modest structure, clearly built with function over form in mind. Attached to the main building was a sprawling compound of enclosures and pens. Seraphine could see various creatures moving about, some she recognized from xenobiology studies, others completely foreign to her. A large bird-like animal with 4 wings watched their approach with intelligent eyes. In another pen, something that looked like a cross between a bear and a lizard lounged in the fading sunlight. Welcome to Reeves Animal Care, Dakota said as she parked near the main entrance. It's not fancy, but it's equipped with some of the best medical technology this side of the sector. Frontier colonies might be remote, but we take care of our own. She opened the back of the vehicle carefully. I'm going to move you now. This might hurt despite the medication. I'll be as gentle as I can. Dakota's strength surprised Seraphine. The human woman lifted her with practiced ease, supporting her body while keeping the broken wings as stable as possible. They moved through the clinic's entrance into a clean, well-lit examination room. The walls were lined with equipment, some of it clearly designed for treating animals much larger than typical pets. Dakota settled Seraphine onto a padded table that adjusted automatically to accommodate her size and wings. "First things first," Dakota said, pulling over a sophisticated scanning array. "This is a full-spectrum medical imager. It'll give us a complete picture of your wing structure, down to the cellular level. I need you to stay as still as possible. It'll take about 10 minutes." Seraphine nodded, watching as the machine hummed to life. Holographic displays appeared in the air, showing cross-sections of her wings in startling detail. She could see the fracture lines, dozens of them, crisscrossing through the delicate bone structure. The membranes were torn in multiple places, blood vessels ruptured, nerve bundles damaged. Dakota studied the images with intense concentration, occasionally manipulating the display to examine different angles. Her expression remained neutral, professional, giving nothing away. After what felt like an eternity, she finally spoke. "Okay. Here's what we're dealing with. You have 17 major fractures across both wings, plus countless microfractures. The primary wing bones, what I assume are similar to a bird's humerus and radius, are completely shattered in 3 places on your left wing and 2 on your right." Seraphine felt her heart sink. "That sounds impossible to repair." Dakota held up a hand. "Let me finish. The membrane damage is extensive but clean. No major contamination, which is good. The nerve bundles are bruised and compressed but not severed. That's actually excellent news. Severed nerves would be much harder to repair." She pulled up another display showing the musculature. "The flight muscles are intact. You were lucky there. The impact force was absorbed mostly by the skeletal structure." "Lucky," Seraphine repeated hollowly. "I don't feel lucky." Dakota pulled a chair over and sat down, meeting Seraphine's eyes directly. "I won't lie to you. This is the most complex wing repair I've ever attempted. Your wings are far more sophisticated than anything I've worked on before. The crystalline structure of your bones, the way your membranes interface with your nervous system, the biomechanical efficiency of your flight muscles, it's all incredibly advanced. But here's what I know for certain. The damage, while severe, is not beyond repair." "How can you be sure?" Seraphine asked. "Because I've seen worse," Dakota said simply. 3 years ago, I treated a Cygnon sky whale calf. Massive creature, wings spanning 40 meters. She'd been caught in a storm and crashed into a mountainside. Every bone in her left wing was pulverized. Everyone told me to euthanize her, that she'd never fly again. But I spent 6 months on reconstructive surgery and physical therapy. Last I heard, she was migrating with her pod, flying hundreds of kilometers every day." Seraphine wanted to believe her, but fear held her back. "Even if you can repair the physical damage, what about flight? Dragons don't just fly, we dance in the air. It's part of our culture, our identity. I'm trained in ceremonial flight patterns that took years to master. Without that, I can never return to court society." "One problem at a time," Dakota said gently. "First, we focus on healing. Then we work on function. Then we work on performance. You didn't learn to fly in a day as a hatchling, did you?" "No," Seraphine admitted. "It took years." "Then we have time," Dakota said. "But I need your help. Tell me everything about dragon wings. How they develop, how they heal naturally, what resources your body needs for repair. The more I understand, the better I can treat you." Seraphine took a shaky breath. "Dragon wings begin developing before we hatch. The bone structure is initially cartilaginous, hardening over the first 2 years of life. We have a unique calcium silicate matrix in our bones that gives them strength and flexibility. Dakota was already taking notes on a datapad. Calcium silicate. Interesting. That explains the crystalline appearance. What about the membranes? They're a protein-based tissue, Seraphine explained, warming to the subject despite herself. Triple-layered. The outer layer is tough and weather-resistant. The middle layer contains blood vessels and sensory nerves. The inner layer interfaces directly with our flight muscles. When we want to adjust wing shape, neural signals trigger microcontractions in the membrane itself. That's remarkable, Dakota murmured, still writing. How fast do wing injuries typically heal? It depends on severity, Seraphine said. Minor tears might heal in a few weeks. Fractures can take months. But injuries this extensive? I've only heard of them in historical texts, usually from wars. Most dragons with such damage chose to end their lives rather than live without flight. Dakota looked up sharply. But some didn't. Seraphine paused. Yes. A few. Ancient records mention warriors who survived catastrophic wing damage and lived on, though they were never able to fly again. Then there's precedent for survival, Dakota said. That's important. Now, tell me about your diet. What nutrients does your body prioritize for healing? Seraphine found herself answering question after question. Dakota's curiosity was genuine and her questions revealed a deep understanding of biology even if she didn't know dragon-specific details. They talked for over an hour, covering everything from Seraphine's blood chemistry to the way her metabolism shifted during injury recovery. Finally, Dakota sat back. All right. Here's my proposed treatment plan. First, we stabilize the fractures with surgical pins and bone cement. I have synthetic materials that should be compatible with your calcium silicate matrix. Then we do membrane repair, suturing the tears and using tissue scaffolding to support regrowth. Throughout this, we'll manage pain, prevent infection, and support your body's natural healing with targeted nutrition. The whole process will take months, maybe longer. And at the end? Seraphine asked quietly. At the end, if everything goes well, you'll have structurally sound wings, Dakota said. Flying will require extensive physical therapy to rebuild strength and relearn coordination. But yes, I believe you can fly again. Seraphine felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. Hope. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. When do we start? Tonight, Dakota said. The sooner we stabilize those fractures, the better your chances of full recovery. I'm going to prepare the surgical suite. You should rest now. I'll give you another dose of pain medication. As Dakota moved around the room, gathering supplies and preparing equipment, Seraphine watched her with growing respect. This human woman, who had no obligation to help, who stood to gain nothing from saving a dragon she'd never met before, was offering everything she had. In dragon society, such selfless behavior was rare. Alliances were transactional, favors were traded, nothing was given freely. Dakota, Seraphine said suddenly. The human turned. Why are you really doing this? Not the oath you mentioned. The real reason. Dakota was quiet for a long moment. When I was 16, I broke my back in a riding accident. Doctors said I'd never walk again. But there was this one physician, Dr. Hammond, who refused to accept that. She spent 2 years working with me, experimental treatments, endless physical therapy. Everyone else had given up, but she never did. Eventually, I not only walked again, I ran. I climbed. I lived. She met Seraphine's eyes. Dr. Hammond taught me that healing isn't just about medicine. It's about refusing to let circumstances define someone's future. You came to our world on a mission of peace. You were attacked by cowards who tried to kill you. And now you're lying on my table thinking your life is over. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not. We're going to fight for your future, you and me together. And we're going to win. Tears slid down Seraphine's face again, but this time they felt different. Not tears of despair, but of something else. Gratitude. Relief. The beginning of belief. Thank you, she whispered. Dakota smiled. Rest now. Tomorrow we start the real work. The surgical suite was cold and sterile, filled with equipment that hummed and beeped softly in the pre-dawn darkness. Seraphine lay on a specialized table that Dakota had modified to accommodate her wings, keeping them elevated and accessible from all angles. The anesthesia was beginning to take effect, making her thoughts slow and dreamy. Above her, bright lights illuminated the operating area where Dakota stood scrubbed and ready, wearing surgical gear that looked almost too clean for a frontier clinic. I'm going to put you under now, Dakota said gently, adjusting an intravenous line in Seraphine's arm. When you wake up, the hard part will be over. Just breathe normally and count backward from 10. Seraphine managed to reach 8 before darkness claimed her. In her dreams, she soared through crystal spires on Aurelian Prime, her wings catching thermals that carried her higher and higher. But something was wrong. Her wings felt heavy, unresponsive. She began to fall, plummeting toward the ground far below. She woke with a gasp 8 hours later. The recovery room was dimly lit, peaceful. Her wings felt different, heavy with bandages and stabilizers but somehow more solid than before. The grinding pain of broken bones scraping against each other was gone, replaced by a dull ache that the medication kept manageable. Dakota sat in a chair beside the table, her eyes closed, clearly exhausted. Did it work? Seraphine asked, her voice hoarse. Dakota's eyes opened immediately. You're awake. Good. Yes, it worked. Better than I hoped, actually. She stood and brought over a tablet displaying post-surgical scans. Look here. We placed 47 surgical pins to stabilize the fractures. The bone cement integrated perfectly with your calcium silicate matrix. Your body is already starting the fusion process. Seraphine studied the images, seeing her wing bones now held together by a framework of pins and cement. It looked mechanical, almost alien, but the underlying structure was recognizable. What about the membranes? We repaired all the major tiers with biocompatible sutures, Dakota explained. I used tissue scaffolding made from synthesized collagen to support the healing process. Your body should absorb the scaffolding as your own tissue regenerates. The nerve bundles were the trickiest part. I had to work under microscopic magnification to ensure proper alignment. How long until I know if the nerves will function? Weeks, Dakota admitted. Maybe months. Nerve healing is slow. But I did electrical stimulation tests during surgery and got good responses. That's promising. She pulled up another display. Your body's healing response is remarkable. Already showing accelerated cellular regeneration at the injury sites. Whatever makes dragon physiology different from most species, it's working in your favor. Over the following days, Seraphine remained in the clinic's recovery ward, a comfortable room with a large window overlooking the animal enclosures. She watched Dakota work with other patients, seeing the same care and attention given to every creature regardless of size or species. A small mammal with a broken leg received the same thorough examination as a massive reptilian beast with an infected wound. Dakota's assistant, a young man named Thomas with an easy smile, helped manage the daily operations while Dakota focused on Seraphine's complex case. The pain gradually lessened as the days passed. Seraphine's body was healing, she could feel it. The constant throb in her wings gave way to an itching sensation that Dakota explained was a good sign, indicating nerve regeneration. 2 weeks after the surgery, Dakota removed some of the external bandages to examine the incision sites. The wounds had healed cleanly, leaving barely visible scars along Seraphine's wing membranes. Incredible, Dakota murmured, running gentle fingers over the healed tissue. I've never seen recovery this rapid. Your species must have evolved some serious regenerative capabilities. Seraphine felt a flutter of sensation along her left wing, the first real feeling she'd had there since the crash. Dakota, I felt that. Where you touched. I actually felt it. Dakota's face lit up with excitement. That's excellent news. The nerve connections are re-establishing. Try something for me. Think about moving your left wing, just a tiny adjustment. Don't force it, just visualize the movement. Seraphine concentrated, imagining her wing extending slightly. Nothing happened at first, but then she felt muscles responding, weak and uncertain. The wing twitched, barely a centimeter of movement, but it was movement. Dakota laughed with delight. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. We're going to start physical therapy tomorrow. Very gentle exercises to rebuild strength and coordination. This is a major milestone. As weeks turned into months, Seraphine's world narrowed to the clinic and its routines. Each morning began with examination and wound care. Afternoons were devoted to physical therapy, slowly increasing the range of motion in her wings. Dakota had set up a specialized harness system that supported Seraphine's weight while allowing her to practice wing movements without risk of injury. The exercises were exhausting and often frustrating. Her wings, once capable of carrying her through the sky for hours, now struggled to extend fully. But there were victories too. The day she managed to fold both wings completely for the first time brought tears of joy. The morning she felt air resistance against her membranes during an exercise, actually sensing the way they caught the breeze, felt like a miracle. Dakota celebrated every small achievement, tracking progress with detailed measurements and scans. Your bone density is returning to normal, she announced one afternoon. The fracture sites are completely fused. Structurally, your wings are sound again. But can I fly? Seraphine asked the question that haunted her dreams. Dakota was honest. I don't know yet. The structure is there, but flying requires tremendous strength and precise coordination. We need to build up your flight muscles, and you need to relearn the neural pathways that control wing movement. It's like learning to walk again after a serious injury. The body remembers, but it takes time to reconnect those memories with action. How much time? Months, maybe a year, Dakota said. I know that sounds like forever, but consider what we've already accomplished. 3 months ago, your wings were shattered beyond what anyone thought reparable. Now you can extend them, fold them, feel sensation throughout the membranes. You're doing physical therapy that would have been impossible a month ago. Every day you get stronger. Trust the process. Seraphine found herself trusting not just the process but Dakota herself. The veterinarian had become more than just a doctor. They talked for hours during treatment sessions, sharing stories about their worlds and lives. Dakota spoke about growing up on Earth, about the decision to leave her comfortable life to work on frontier colonies where medical care was desperately needed. Seraphine shared memories of Aurelian Prime, the crystal cities and floating gardens, the complex politics of Dragon Court society. Do you miss it? Dakota asked one evening as she adjusted Seraphine's therapy harness. You're home. Every day, Seraphine admitted. But I'm afraid too. Afraid of going back and seeing how people look at me. In my culture, physical perfection is prized. Weakness is shameful. Even if I can fly again, I'll always be the princess who crashed, who needed human medicine to survive. Some will see that as disgrace. Dakota's expression hardened. Then they're fools. You survived something that should have killed you. You had the courage to accept help instead of choosing pride and death. You've worked harder than any patient I've ever treated. If your people can't see the strength in that, they don't deserve you. Seraphine blinked back tears. On Earth, do humans value such things? Resilience? Adaptability? We try to, Dakota said. Not always successfully. But the humans I admire most are the ones who face impossible odds and keep fighting. Like you. 4 months after the crash, Dakota announced they were ready for the next phase. We're going outside today. Real environment, real wind, real conditions. We'll start with simple wing extensions, feeling how air moves across your membranes. No flying yet, but this is an important step. Seraphine's heart raced as they moved to an open field behind the clinic. The wind was gentle, carrying scents of the blue vegetation and distant mountains. Dakota helped her into a safety harness attached to a sturdy frame. "Okay," Dakota said. "Extend your wings slowly. Feel the wind. Let your body remember what it's supposed to do." Seraphine spread her wings for the first time in open air since the crash. The membranes caught the breeze, and suddenly she felt it. Lift. Actual aerodynamic lift pressing against her wings. The sensation was intoxicating, terrifying, wonderful. Her wings remembered even if her mind was full of doubt. They curved instinctively to catch the wind, adjusting angle and tension without conscious thought. "That's it," Dakota encouraged. "You're doing great. Now try shifting your weight, like you're banking into a turn. Don't leave the ground, just feel the motion." Seraphine leaned slightly left, and her wings responded, adjusting to compensate. Muscle memory was kicking in, 4 months of physical therapy suddenly connecting with lifelong instincts. She shifted right, then back to center. Her wings moved smoothly, confidently. For the first time since the crash, she felt like herself again. "I can do this," she whispered. "I can really do this." "Yes, you can," Dakota agreed, her voice thick with emotion. "You're ready. Next week, we attempt actual flight."